I told him I didn't want to play anymore. He was phoning and phoning, but I said I'm not going to play. The calls came, the president on the line, but Jose Paulo Bezerra Maciel Jr., better known as Paulinho, hardly known at all then, had made up his mind. He had headed home to Sao Paulo, yet rather than returning to his boyhood club he was giving up on the game. He had had enough, aged 19. In Lithuania they had racially abused me, in Poland they hadn't paid me, and I thought I don't need this, he says. I said to my family I'm not playing football again. Which was when his then wife intervened, telling him to think about his parents, a council worker and a supermarket manager who had supported him since he started playing at the age of 5. Ditching it all would, she said, show a lack of respect to them. Paulinho and his wife had just had a baby daughter too, and, besides, she asks, what else can you do? It is a good question. What would he have done? Paulinho smiles. I really don't know, he says. She said the only thing you know how to do is play football. And so that is what he did. About a month later, Paulinho rejoined Powder Cucar in the 4th division, effectively an amateur. Almost a decade on, he is preparing for the world's biggest club game, a starter for Barcelona in Saturday's Clásico. The highest-scoring midfielder in Spain, his team are 6 points clear at the top and 11 ahead of their rivals, and this summer he will be in the heart of the Brazil team who are favourites in Russia. If someone had said then that I would be preparing to play in the World Cup and at Barcelona, I would have said never, he grins. Never, ever. However, the then Paulinho is talking about is not 2008, it is 2015. It is not that he gave up once a long time ago, it is that others routinely gave up on him. He tells his story steadily, dating every decision. It's been a roller coaster, he says. He has played in 6 countries in 3 continents, been a Copa Libertadores champion and relegated to, suffered the greatest humiliation in Brazil's history and been abused, unpaid, written off. And now look. Paulinho's professional career began when, aged 16, he left home for Lithuania. It ended aged 26 when he left London for China. Or at least it was supposed to, Guangzhou, his particular graveyard. When I went, everyone said that was it, my career was over, Paulinho says. The question is simple, why go? The answer is simple. Start 2. There was a prospect worse, staying at Tottenham. After a year at Vilnius, Paulinho left for Łódź, returning to Brazil in the summer of 2008. He won promotion with Powder Cucar before joining Bragantino in the 2nd division. From there he headed to Corinthians, where he won the Brazilian title, the Libertadores and the Club World Cup. Having turned down Internazionale, he joined Tottenham the following year for a club record £17 million. The Premier League should have suited him, he admits, but within 2 years he was desperate to go. I wouldn't say it was a relief to leave Spurs, but it was clear I had to, he says. It was a difficult time. Paulinho is the highest-scoring midfielder in Spain going into Saturday's Clásico. Photograph Albert Guerrero's André Villas-Boas bought me in July 2013, and in December Villas-Boas goes. Had wanted me, we'd spoken a lot, and then 6 months later Tim Sherwood was in charge. There was no problem with him, he was very young, a good coach, but the team wasn't doing well and he came under pressure to change things. He did things a little differently, but I still played the last 8 or 9 games that season. Then came the change from Sherwood to Mauricio Pochettino. Something else came too. As Paulinho sets the scene, Belo Horizonte comes into view. He was brought on at half-time in the semi-final of the 2014 World Cup with the hosts 50 down to Germany, and, as he discusses his return to Spurs afterwards, it is clear how much of an impact Brazil's 71 defeat had. The problem was that this came after the World Cup, with me trying to get back to some normality. I was the last back, and to have gone out of the World Cup that way with Brazil at home, he says, pausing, his train of thought lost a little. I've never talked much about that game, maybe once or twice, that's it. There's no point. You could lose a game by 2 or 3 and say, oh, we made this mistake, we made that mistake, we lost. But if you lose 71, what can you say? It is something that can happen. But it happened. And after that, I had to go back to my club. You have a full season ahead of you when you hope you can recover from losing a World Cup semi-final 71 at home. It did not work out that way. Paulinho had started 28 league games in his first season in North London, in his second it was 3. My first game under Pochettino is in my position, but after that I played in every position apart from my own, Paulinho says, marking out roles with his fingers. If we play in a 3, I'm here. If we play in a 2, I'm here. He had a different system, and if you're not in your position in a football as competitive as England, it's difficult. I was playing on the left wing, the mister put me there and I had to play there, because I wanted to play. I had no problem with Pochettino. I told him this position is not mine, but if you want I can play there. But in the long term you're not going to be at your best, and over the last 6 months I wasn't playing regularly. I'm not going to say bad things about England just because I had a bad time. I thought the moment had come to leave. Where I didn't know. But I wanted to leave. The coach wasn't trusting in me, so there's no reason to stay. It was May 2015, a month left. I'd spoken to the president chairman Daniel Levy and asked him if he could help. He was a buenissimo person and he said, let's wait and see if you have anything. What he had was China. And that was pretty much that. There were 2 more offers in Europe, but they were loans and I didn't want that, Paulinho says. Luis Felipe Scolari wanted him at Guangzhou, so he left London behind, not returning until the international friendly at Wembley last month. He says he went without bitterness. I'm not going to say bad things about England just because I had a bad time. It was a pleasure to play the Spurs players recently. I speak to Kyle Walker sometimes and it was nice to see Danny Rose and Eric Dier. Going to China is where the story is supposed to end. Although Paulinho insists he has not got a bad word for Guangzhou, a city of more than 13 million people that he describes as perfect, he knew there was a risk, as if his career no longer counted. Was the football there too easy? Did the players actually care? It is tempting to see players as complicit in their own demise, but his case contradicts that. China turned out to be a restart. It's not the same, he concedes. The level didn't compare with Spain, Italy, England, Germany. It's totally different. But in 2016 more players arrived: Gervinho, Ezekiel Lavezzi, Jackson Martinez, then Oscar and Hulk arrived and the league grew. There are new laws making it more difficult to buy players and another one obliging teams to have 3 under-23s, so I imagine it will drop again a little, but the standard rose after 2015. It's not top, but there are games that are very physical, and teams like Guangzhou and Shanghai who have very good Chinese players and foreign signings. We had 8 or 9 Chinese national team players. And as a player, the motivation is the same because it comes from within you, whether you're in front of 4,000, 5,000 or 100,000. I also had the national team to play for. 6 titles followed, including the Asian Champions League. Tight, the national coach, managed him at Corinthians and believed in him, but still he was in China. And yet Brazil did call, and so, unexpectedly, did Barcelona. Paulinho was preparing to take a free kick when Brazil were facing Argentina and Lionel Messi sidled up. Are you coming to Barcelona? He asked. If you're taking me, I'm going, Paulinho replied before telling Willian to take the free kick. His head had gone. Paulinho spent 2 seasons at Guangzhou after failing to make an impact at Tottenham. Photograph VCG via Getty Images. My representative called. My attitude was, when you have something concrete, let's sit down and decide, but I don't need anything crazy in my career right now. I had 3 or 4 years contract left. I was clear, either I go to Barcelona, or I stay, nothing else. We were in the knockout phase of the Asian Champions League and Scolari wanted to keep me, but he knew it was a unique opportunity. I'm 29, it's Barcelona. I kept saying that to him, this is Barcelona. We're not talking about any club here, this one, that one, the other. No, we're talking about Barcelona. Guangzhou resisted and Barcelona had to pay his full buyout clause on the final day of the Chinese market. Supporters were furious, not so much in Guangzhou as in Catalonia. In the wake of Neymar's departure, Barcelona were in the midst of a crisis, the catalogue of mistakes and problems growing, and some saw Paulinho's signing as the culmination, definitive proof the club was adrift and the board incompetent. Few came to his presentation and much was made of a miscontrol as he performed the obligatory kick-ups. It was as if he symbolized everything that was wrong. 40 million euros. For a 29-year-old from China, who failed at Spurs, and who did not fit the Barcelona model. That, though, was part of the point, while he also admits that he has talked often with teammates about the way Barcelona play, especially with Messi, Busquets and Suarez. We didn't have a player of his profile, the coach, Ernesto Valverde, said. He has important technical and physical qualities. He arrives in the area from deep. We needed someone who breaks through lines. Paulinho says, I've always been this kind of player since youth level. I've been a midfielder who can arrive and finish. I've almost never played in Busquets' position. My way of playing is similar to Lampard. Under Valverde, Barcelona remain unbeaten in 24 matches across all competitions, and Paulinho has played his part. After his first start, in which he scored one and provided an assist, the Brazilian Football Federation joked, is he bad? Dani Alves suggested Paulinho would end up proving cheap. He has 6 goals and 2 assists in the league. His name has been chanted at the Camp Nou. I'm happy in playing well and helping, he says. I didn't expect things to go so well. I've heard it said that I'm silencing the critics so many times, but it's not that. I don't have to prove myself to anyone. I don't play for the critics, I play for my teammates. For 3-4 years I haven't listened to anything, he says, sounding rather like he might have done. People always talk and always will. He's good now because he's at Barca, he was only good then because he was in China, blah blah blah. When I was at Bragantino and I went to Corinthians, it was the same at Tottenham and in China. I've had that since the beginning. Paulinho once again reflects on his beginning. It was hard leaving everything behind at only 17, but I went. And then after the problems with racism, having to fight to be paid, I didn't want to carry on. I was fighting for things that should have been my right. I wasn't asking for a lot, for something I wanted, just to be respected and paid. My family didn't have a lot, but we were okay, we could live, so I thought I don't need this. It wasn't that I didn't like football, but I didn't want to play anymore. After a while they persuaded me. We laugh about it now, you see. Imagine if you'd stopped back then. I've had a lot of experiences and I wouldn't change a thing. I went from there to Spurs and from Spurs to China, because I wanted to play. 2014 was a very difficult year. 2015 was hard too, with everyone talking Paulinho's career is over. Everyone said that was it. They said the level was no good, but I won 6 trophies and within a year I was back in the Brazil team. Now that's football. It was a roller coaster, no one gave me a chance, but here I am.